back to my channel. I don't even know where to start because this is something I've wanted to chat to you guys about for a little while now, and either Huxley's awake or I'm not in the right mindset to talk about it. But today I'm just feeling really open and just, to be honest, wanting to share this with you. I know I shared it with you guys and I wrote a blog about it. It was the first blog I had ever written, which is lost out there somewhere in the cyber world since I had changed websites. But it was a really raw and honest blog about my IVF journey. It was a great way for me to, I guess, deal with what happened and process what happened, and I actually felt amazing after I had written it and put it out there for all of you to read it. So if you had read that blog, you would know a little bit about my IVF journey, our IVF journey I should say, because it's very much part of Jack's as it is mine. And I thought I wanted to share it with you because I know so many people now who have got either infertility, are struggling to have children, or for some reason need to go down the IVF journey. I want you guys to know that you are not alone, and I know many thoughts will run through your head through the whole process, but just so you know that you are not alone and I'm here to support you. And if you ever need someone to talk to, please feel free to reach out and message me or contact me via my website or Instagram, because I'm more than happy to just be a listening ear or someone who has been through a similar experience as you. So as I mentioned in a previous vlog, a few vlogs ago, about my PCOS journey, I mentioned that I had blood tests done, which, long story short, resulted in me being diagnosed with PCOS among several other things. So I had gone off the pill, and during the time I was on the pill, I always had really bad periods. I could bleed for 5 weeks straight. Yeah, it was just not a fun time. So fast track to now, Huxley will be 18 months in a couple days time, which is crazy, guys. I cannot believe he is 1.5 years old and I still don't have a period. So when I went off the pill trying to conceive naturally, I never got a period back, and yeah, still waiting on that one. But I'm in the whole process now of not curing my PCOS, but I'm on a journey to get my period back. And it has been a long journey. I've made a lot of changes and I'm still on that path of finding what works for me and what will get my period back essentially. But I wanted to talk to you about my IVF journey. How am I going to put this? I don't want to share this to scare people. Pretty much, this is just my experience, guys. Like, this is, every single person has a different experience, and this is mine, and I'm just sharing my story. Whether you relate to it or not, or your journey might be completely different. But yeah, just a reminder that yeah, my journey can be completely opposite or different to what yours will be. Let's just fast track to the IVF. So when we found out that we weren't able to have kids naturally, we were obviously devastated. We were still quite young. I was, oh my goodness, I think I was 28 at the time. So I was at the age probably where I was looking at wanting to have kids. I was starting to get really clucky, and Jack was only 25, I think, at the time. Yeah, so he was probably still a few years off, even sort of like he wanted kids but wasn't like in the mindset of having them right now. So when we found out that both of us sort of had issues, it was really heartbreaking. And I think when you're faced with something like that, it really puts into perspective like what is important to you. So Jack pretty much jumped on the bandwagon straight away and was like, let's do this, like let's just do it, like let's not waste any more time, let's just go for it. We know what we want and let's just do it. And obviously I come from a holistic health background. I'm a health and nutrition coach. I had been trying to do everything naturally. It was really hard at the start to accept we had to do IVF, because I felt like I had failed. I felt like my body had failed. I felt like my job as a woman on this planet, like I couldn't do it. And I felt really really horrible. I felt really down for such a long time, because then you're also faced with the fact that IVF isn't a guarantee. It's not a 100% success rate. And when you look at it, we were almost given like a 20 to 40%, actually it was a 20% success rate. So when you look at the odds, like, you can't just get excited and be like, yay, it's all right, we're doing IVF, like, it's all good, we're gonna have kids. It's not like that at all. There's still so many factors that have to come into play. I think the fact that there were still all these odds against us, you don't want to get your hopes up. You want to get excited, and it is exciting, and you should be excited, but in the back of your mind, you've got that sort of, I guess, a little bit of doubt in your mind. And I'm always a positive person, and I always try to stay as positive as possible, but yeah, I think that was really hard to overcome. And I feel like Jack and I, we got really close. Like, we got to bond and experience something that not many other people go through, and it really brought us closer. Like, what he had seen me go through, I think really changed his perception about the whole thing. And he also had to step up as well. He had to be my support person. He had to be there when I was having really bad days. So yeah, I feel like we definitely became a lot closer through that process. So with IVF, they put the sperm and egg together, and they sort of wait for them to get friendly with each other, I guess you could say, and fertilize that way. But because we had other factors that didn't allow that to happen, we had to do ICSI, which I call an arranged marriage, because essentially instead of just putting the sperm and the egg together and hoping they marry together, they inject the sperm with the egg. So yeah, it's an arranged marriage. It really is. It's the best way to explain it. So we had better chances of that fertilizing and then going on to becoming a really strong embryo. So they gave me a medication that would try and mimic the process your body goes through to get a period. You take that for 5 or so days, and then you stop taking it, and then that was meant to induce a period. Still didn't happen for me, so we then just had to try and just go ahead and hope for the best, because yeah, my body just wasn't cooperating at all. Wow, it's actually really crazy thinking back and remembering all of this. So once we sort of were taking some medication to boost my hormones back up because they were really low, once you get to a certain point, you can start your injections. And I still remember, like, I hate needles. Like, I'm okay, but I just hate them. And the thought of giving myself a needle was just horrible. But my grandma, my beautiful mama, she was type 1 diabetic, and I just remember her always having to give herself injections in the stomach, and she was the strongest woman I know. So I just had her in the back of my mind, and I just kept saying, if she can do this every day of her life, I can do this for a short period of time. And I still remember standing in the kitchen behind me, and Jack was going to do it because I was like, I just don't know if I can do it. I just can't do it. And he like grabbed my stomach, and the way he held the needle, I was just like, no way. I said, I'm going to do it. Like, let me do it. And honestly, like, it was just the weirdest thing ever. But as scary and that as it sounds, we were excited. Like, we're like, oh my God, this is the start of our journey. Like, we could potentially have a child after all of this. And I think that's what really kept me going. And I think that's a really positive thought to keep in your mind as well, is, you know, you can do this. Like, this, it's going to hopefully result in such a beautiful, magical experience for you. So you do that for so many days, or weeks I should say. And then throughout that time, you go in and get ultrasounds done to see how many eggs you're getting, because essentially you want a lot of follicles to produce in your ovaries, because the more follicles, the more hopeful, good size eggs they can extract. They actually do though. So the ultrasounds will, when you go in, they check the size of the follicles, and when they get to so many centimeters that they're happy with, that's when they say, okay, we're ready to do your egg retrieval, let's go and do that. I had a lot of setbacks here. I remember my sister was visiting, and we went to, like, my ultrasounds just kept getting delayed and delayed because my follicles weren't getting to a big enough size to do egg retrieval. So I was so pumped full of hormones, I was so bloated, I was so sore and so emotional. And I remember going into this one appointment where we were like, this has to be it, like this has to be it. And he was just like, I'm so sorry, like it's just not happening. You've got a lot of follicles, you've got so many follicles, like too many, which is why obviously I've got PCOS, and there's a chance when you have polycystic ovarian syndrome that using all this medication and hormone replacement therapy that you produce way too many follicles. Now at the time I didn't realize that that was something that could have potentially turned into a really horrible situation. My main focus was that I had so many, but none of them were big enough. So I went out of that appointment and cried because I was like, are they ever going to get big enough? Like what happens if they can only get them half the size that they want? Is it going to fertilize? All of this was going through my mind. Pretty much that appointment, they decided we'll just go ahead with the egg retrieval because they thought that this was as good as it was going to get. So egg retrieval, you have to do what they call a trigger shot, which is an injection still, but it's a different kind of injection. And you take this so many hours before your egg retrieval, and you do that, and then you go in, they put you under, and they retrieve all of the larger follicles, or eggs I should say. And then when you wake up, they tell you how many eggs that they retrieved. So I remember waking up and he said to me, I'm pretty sure that they got 12 eggs, which is pretty good. Like some people have like 20, some people only have 5. Over the next 5 days, they let them mature. And as they mature, some die off, some grow and become really strong and really good quality. They have certain qualities they like them to be. And every second day they call you and give you an update. So they rang me the next day, and they said that there were only 9. So from 12 it dropped to 9, which was really heartbreaking, but you know, that's still 9 chances. You think, okay, I've got 9 chances, that's awesome. And during the next couple days I started to feel really unwell. So it's obviously normal to be really bloated, and you do get a little bit of pain, I guess just generally feeling unwell. So you sort of like shrug it off and you think, okay, well, that's normal, you expect that. On day 3 they called again and said that they had 5 that were as good of quality. So 5 was really deflating again, and you could tell by the voice, like as soon as you answered the phone they'd be like, hi Emma, and you'd know straight away it wasn't good news. And by that 3rd day I was really sick, so I was really bloated, like I couldn't even wear pants. It was so bad. Everything, if I touched it, it would hurt. I couldn't eat anything because I was so full. Like I just felt really full, like if someone had a needle and went like that I would explode. And I felt really sick, so even if I moved slightly I would just get this almighty stabbing sharp pain. I'm pretty sure I also started to have fevers. I was really dehydrated. I was just not in a good way. And I remember it was Australia Day because Jack was so excited to go and do something. My parents were coming down to visit and they were staying at a hotel somewhere, and I just remember waking up that day and I was so sick. I couldn't hardly move. I was so bloated. It was insane, guys. Like I don't even have a photo, and I wish I did, because it was so bad that even my partner was just like, there's something wrong. Like we need to take you straight to emergency room. And I remember him driving, he had a ute. I remember driving to the emergency room, and every single bump I was just in tears. It was so painful. I was really struggling to breathe too at this point. I had to just take really short, shallow breaths. So all this was happening in amongst this 5-day period of my eggs, of the embryos maturing. Okay, let me backtrack. So when they do egg retrieval, they essentially are popping all of those follicles to retrieve the egg out. So they're bursting, which is why you can feel really sick afterwards. But because I had created so many follicles and they popped them all, I got so sick. So when you, I guess, essentially think all of those follicles have also got fluid, and then it's bursting. Anyways, I'm not going to go too far into that one. So after a long time, I got sent home. I'm pretty sure I stayed in for one night. And I remember trying to eat even like a couple mouthfuls of food, and I just vomited everywhere. That's how full I was and bloated I was. So we went home, and then we got the call pretty much on the 5th day to say that only 2 embryos had made it to day 5. And on day 5, that's when they freeze them. So they don't let them go any further. And because I had overstimulation, there was no chance that I could do a fresh transfer, meaning that on day 5 they would transfer the embryo straight into me then and there, and then have that 2-week wait period. Because the next day I got so sick, I got rushed to hospital again, and this time there was no going home. We knew at that point we only had 2 embryos, but they were freezing them. So we had 2 chances. It was heartbreaking, but we still had 2 chances, and some people don't get any. So we were so grateful for that. But I didn't have too much time to think about it because I was so sick. It's actually really scientific what happened. I'm gonna have to look that up. So my ovarian hyperstimulation fell into the severe category. So there's mild, moderate, and severe. So mine was in the severe case, and it was just due to the excess amount of hormones within my body. So it's really rare for what happened to me to happen. So I don't want people to get really scared and, you know, that stopped them. Mine could have been picked up a little bit earlier due to the ultrasound showing that I had a lot of follicles, and my trigger shot should have been changed to something different, and it didn't. Anyways, that's in the past now, but yes, I was put in hospital. And to explain a little bit more, I'm going to just look it up and read it to you because it is really like hard to explain to people. But essentially, severe ovarian hyperstimulation syndrome, there is enough fluid in either the abdomen or the chest to be of serious medical concern. For these women, the symptoms are so severe that hospitalization is necessary. You are likely to experience progression of symptoms including nausea, vomiting, marked abdominal pain, and dehydration. Fluid accumulates in the abdomen cavity and chest, causing abdominal swelling and shortness of breath. So that's exactly what I was experiencing, except instead of it getting better over the hours and days, it progressively got worse. So I was literally filling up with fluid. It's insane. And I remember laying in bed one day. My mum was coming every single day and just staying by my bed. My partner would come as soon as he finished work. And I remember laying there and I remember saying to my mum, I really can't breathe. Like, they had oxygen on me and everything, but even with the oxygen, I could hardly breathe, and I was so scared. Some specialists came in to see me, and I just remember the look on their face, and they were just like, we need to do something straight away. Like, this girl, there's something wrong pretty much. I went down and got an x-ray done, and they had found that there was so much fluid within my body that it had caused a pneumothorax in my right lung. So I essentially had a hole in my lung, and hence why I was having so much trouble breathing, and every time I tried to breathe, I'd get a really stabbing pain in my chest. Then I was, I guess, put in ICU. Oh my God. This, guys, was the most painful thing I've ever experienced. Actually, I'll get to that in a minute. So they rushed me down and they gave me a local anesthetic, or 2 actually, I think. So essentially they had to start draining the fluid from my body, because instead of it, like me starting to lose it, I was getting more and more and more fluid build up. So they pretty much have to put a needle and tube into your back, through all these different cavities, which is super scary because obviously if they stuff up, it's not good. He seemed to do it okay. It was really horrible and uncomfortable, but he did it relatively quick. I then had 1 lung drain attached to me, so I couldn't, it was really uncomfortable, but you know, you have to do these things. So we thought that that would be okay and like we'd start to like see an improvement there. So I was just in ICU, they were just monitoring me constantly. And you could see the fluid building up in the thing. They have like a little thing they sit next to the bed and you can see how much fluid, and they were just keeping track of that. I think in my right side they got over 1 litre of fluid out. And then I started experiencing it in the other side. So they did an x-ray. I didn't have anything wrong with my left lung. So I had to go and get the same thing done on the left side. I still remember it like it was yesterday. It was the most painful experience of my life. Like, this guy could not get it in. I remember sitting there, and I don't know if they gave me like 4 local anesthetics, because tell you what, I could feel everything. And I remember him trying to put it in, and I felt this pop. And now when you have had local anesthetic, you can't really feel. It's sort of like when you have a cesarean, you can't really feel, but you can feel at the same time, if that makes any sense. I could feel this trickling down inside me, and I just remember going to the lady, he's hit something, something's not right, like this is so excruciating. Like, I just had tears streaming down my face. It was so horrible, and it felt like it took half an hour. And I remember I was just so emotionally exhausted by this point. I was just over it. I was so sick. I was in so much pain. I now had 2 lung drains either side. It was so uncomfortable to lay and just sit. But I started feeling a lot better. I did have a pneumothorax which had to heal itself pretty much. That's pretty much that. I think I was in hospital for 10 days, and then I was able to go home. I was feeling so much better then. And even during this whole process, I still tried to stay so positive, and that really did help. Having family support was just incredible. But at the same time, you feel so lonely, because I honestly thought I was going to die when I couldn't breathe. Like, it was the worst feeling. So when they put me in ICU, they pretty much said that my organs were starting to shut down. They just weren't coping with everything going on. So that was so scary. And I think that's why, like, I haven't really spoken about it to anyone in depth like I am now, because, like, our bodies try to forget things. Like, I don't know if something's ever happened to you traumatic in your life, and it's like your body and mind's defense mechanism is to try and forget about it. So I've definitely not forgotten about it, but it's something I don't like to focus on. And at the time, I still didn't want to focus on what had happened, because I wanted to focus on getting better and recovering and getting my body back to being how it should be, because I really then was excited to get this transfer done and go through that whole process of then having a baby. And the one thing that was keeping me going was thinking, okay, well, when we do have the transfer, I don't have to do all this again. We can just get the transfer done, and we have 2 embryos, 2 beautiful little embryos that are waiting for us to create magic with, pretty much. Again, like, I didn't really want to share this because of it being so traumatic, but at the end of the day, that was my experience. It was so rare, guys. Like, normally this is picked up when you're going through the needles and the ultrasounds, but mine just, like, it didn't really get picked up properly like it should have, and that honestly is so rare. I don't want this to scare anyone off having IVF, because I tell you now, I would never go back and not have done that experience, even have going through that, because I have got a little boy upstairs who's asleep still. I'm very surprised, who is just beautiful. And to think that I wouldn't have him is just heartbreaking. So I would do it again. And I said to my mum and I said to Jack, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do it again. Like, after what had happened, like, if it worked or it didn't work, that would be it. Like, I wouldn't go through it again. But I feel so confident that they would monitor me so differently this time. Like, if I did have to do it years down the track, I would, because I know more now. I've educated myself, I've learnt more, and I know my body a lot better now. So I would do it again, and that's why I don't want this to scare anyone off, because honestly, this, like, I know so many people who have done IVF and experienced none of this. So please don't let that scare you off. In the May, we were able to do the transfer, which literally is in and out. Like, I had no idea it was so quick. And you have a 2-week wait before you take a pregnancy test to see if it was successful and that the embryo had implanted. Longest 2 weeks, I can hear Huxley. The longest 2 weeks of your life. The first week was fine. Like, I kept myself busy with yoga, I was working, it was all good, but that last week dragged so much. And anyone that's been through that 2-week wait knows exactly what I'm talking about. And I still remember the day they rang me, remember the phone ringing, and like I mentioned about that 5-day wait with your embryos, they call you every second day and you could tell by the tone of their voice that it wasn't wrong. I answered this time and I couldn't pick it. Like, they were so just blank. They were like, "Hi Emma, how you going?" And I'm like, "Good." And I'm like, "Oh my God, I don't know if this is a good call or a bad call." And she goes, "Oh, that's good. So I'm just calling to let you know that you're pregnant." And I just, like, yeah, broke down crying. Jack wasn't home yet. I so wanted to call and text him, but I wanted to tell him in person. So I waited for him to get home, and I still remember him walking in the door. And because I hadn't called him, I think he said he thought that it hadn't worked because I hadn't called him. And I remember he came and sat down and he goes, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And I'm like, he goes, "Did they call?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he goes, "It's okay, Bob." And I'm like, "We're pregnant." Like, it worked. And he was just like, "Oh my God, like, I thought it must have because you hadn't called me." And I'm like, "No, I wanted to tell you in person." And yeah, it was just awesome. So yeah, 1.5 years later, here we are. I feel a lot better after having had spoken about that. I had a lot of people ask at the start about it, and I just wasn't ready to share that experience with you all. And here we are, 2 and a bit years later, and I'm finally verbally sharing it with you. And I thought, why not share it with you? You have been through it with me. A lot of you have been there right from the get-go, so, and had seen that, I guess, whole process. Like I said, if you're about to start IVF, do it. It's amazing. Everything I experienced was super rare. Does not mean it's going to happen to you. But just so you know, like, even after all that, I would still do it. Like, it's so worth it, guys. It's so worth it. And whenever you're having a down day and you feel like you can't do one more injection, you can't do one more ultrasound, you can do it. It's incredible what your body can do. You just have to really shift your mindset. As hard as it is, just don't put too much pressure on yourself at the time, and just keep remembering what could be. And this, guys, is my miracle baby. Can you wave and say hello? Okay, guys, I'm gonna leave this little chat here now. I'm gonna spend some time with my beautiful boy, and I just want to thank you again for all your support over the last few years. It honestly means the world to me to have you guys here to chat to and share everything with you. I feel like you're part of our family almost, so it's really nice to have you guys here and to finally be able to share this part of our journey with you. Not everything's rainbows and butterflies, but whatever goes down must come up at the end of the day. So there's always something positive to look forward to. Mwah. He's waving now.